big news. Magic Johnson now, in effect, running the Los Angeles Lakers. President of basketball, I think is his title. This Pelinka guy, who's Kobe Bryant's agent, longtime agent in NBA. He actually played. I didn't notice. I mean, why would I notice? I mean, he actually played. He was a member of the Fab Five back in the day. And he was a member, clearly, because he wasn't a Fab Five member. He was on the bench. Right. This cat, I think his name is Rob. Let me see if I can find his name here. You're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. Make sure I get his first name correct. Right. Mr. Rob Pelinka. So he was part of the Fab Five back in the day for the Michigan Wolverines. Clearly, he wasn't a part of the Fab Five. He was on the team because he was on the bench because he was not a Fab Five member. But he's set to be the new GM. Stories are coming out. I mentioned in the last segment, man, you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show, 404-382-0338. You can also email me at doug@thedougstewartshow.com. There were four things, man. Four things that's like the perfect storm that happened to the Lakers and why they're in the position they are right now, one of the worst teams in basketball. The number one thing, man, is that whole Chris Paul deal that was supposed to happen. But David Stern, who was the acting governor of the then New Orleans Hornets, vetoed a deal that would have sent Chris Paul to the Los Angeles Lakers. The league owned the Hornets at the time, having purchased the franchise from George Shinn. The potential trade, I went back and looked at all of these specifics. The potential trade, which also included Goran Dragic. Stop right there. Goran Dragic, this is the thing that people have revisionist history about, or Laker haters want to have revisionist history about. Oh, the deal wasn't a good deal. The league wasn't going to let the Lakers do a deal like they got over on the Memphis Grizzlies when they got Paul Gasol. You know, that was a bad trade. That wasn't an even trade. And the same thing they were trying to pull with the Hornets, were they the Hornets at that time? I can't even remember. Yeah, they were the Hornets at that time. Same thing that they're trying to do with the Hornets now. They're trying to give us fish heads and rice and get this good player in Chris Paul. No! They were trying to trade Goran Dragic, Louis Scola, Kevin Martin, all going to the Houston Rockets, first-round pick going to New Orleans. So the Hornets were going to get a first-round pick going to the New Orleans and Lamar Odom going to Houston. That's right. So Goran Dragic, Luis Scola, Kevin Martin, and a Houston first-round pick were all going to New Orleans. Luis Scola, or Luis Scola was a very good player. I don't know where he's at right now, but Luis Scola is a very good player. Maybe he plays for the San Antonio Spurs. I'm not sure. Very good international player. Kevin Martin, very good player. Goran Dragic right now is considered one of the top, 5-6 point guards in the NBA. So that's what they were trying to do. It was a legitimate deal. Now, David Stern will tell you that there was no deal. And we kind of look back at it and we think that it was a done deal and, all they had to do is just pull the trigger. But what David Stern will tell you is that there was an offer, but there was no deal. They didn't agree upon a deal. David Stern and the league acting as owners and management of the New Orleans Hornets at that time. Okay, that's fine. In all essence, it was a deal. Chris Paul was ready to go and be a Los Angeles Lakers. And remember, if Chris Paul goes to the Lakers, there's a lot of other dominoes that fell because he didn't go. But there are a lot of other dominoes that fell because Chris Paul didn't become a Laker. In particular, getting in Steve Nash. If Chris Paul's a Laker, you don't have to spend money or make a deal, for Steve Nash, who was at the end of his career and done. And you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. After the 2011-2012 season, the Lakers compiled a sign and trade deal with the Phoenix Suns for Steve Nash. The Lakers gave Nash a 3-year, $28 million contract as part of the deal. In those 3 seasons, Steve Nash played in just 65 games. And the Lakers did not win a single playoff series, losing the first round of the 2013 playoffs, doing their only postseason appearance with Nash. Also, because you have Steve Nash, unhealthy Steve Nash at the end of his career, the Lakers made the deal and I can't remember who came first right now. Maybe Dwight actually was there first, but Dwight Howard played uninspired basketball and had all of the different excuses in the world when he came to the Lakers. So Steve Nash was a bad deal. They gave him $28 million for 3 years. He came in there and gave them absolutely no production. They did that because they didn't get Chris Paul. Because they didn't get Chris Paul, they made deals to get Dwight Howard in. Dwight Howard, with no real leadership on that team at that time and no heart of his personal own, didn't do a damn thing. Right. Dwight Howard in a Laker uniform didn't do a damn thing, played with absolutely zero heart, didn't have a floor general type point guard like a Chris Paul to put foot in his ass. So he played like a scrub. So all of this comes from the Chris Paul trade. And the last thing, and I mentioned this in the last segment, the last thing is giving Kobe freaking Bryant broke down, bad Achilles, knees, groins, hamstrings, $25 million a year for 3 years. Why in the fuck would you do that? And you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. Disclaimer. Let me put this out there before any of you Kobe Bryant lovers try to say something to the opposite. Love Kobe. Love what he did for the organization. Love what he did for the NBA. Fantastic player. Maybe I'd put him as the third, fourth best player I've seen in the last 40 years. Maybe. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it today. But this happens all the time. When you lose a step 2, 3, 4, 5 in sports, the team has to move on and build for the future. This whole lifetime achievement contract that the Lakers gave Kobe Bryant at the end of his career, well, once again, I believe it was 3 years in a row, his season ended early because of injury, okay, was wrong. Was wrong. And that's one of the main catalysts. That's one of the main reasons why the organization is right now. If I had to rank them, I'd say the number one thing would be that Chris Paul deal. The number two thing, the close number two would be this Kobe Bryant deal. And impeding progress and impeding, putting together, new players and having a salary cap or having the money to get free agents. Not only that, there's a lot of conversation about Kobe Bryant and, people not wanting to play with him. Did he hurt their chances of getting free agents on the open market? You can't tell. You can't quantify it. But a lot of people argue yes. And I love Kobe. But we see Michael Jordan, in another uniform with the Washington Wizards. We've seen Patrick Ewing play for the Seattle Supersonics. We've seen Akeem Olajuwon play for the Toronto Raptors. We've seen Charles Barkley play for several teams. Happens all the time. Allen Iverson played for the freaking Denver Nuggets. Happens all the time. Just because we don't want to give your ass a stupid ass contract and all of this money doesn't mean that we don't love you. And they should have let Kobe punk ass walk. They should have let him walk, man. We should have moved on.